This episode of Trestle Tactics is proudly presented by Gordon Food Service.
Welcome to Trestle Tactics, a tips from Trestle Short. We wanted to know what's going to make our podcasts more valuable to you. And the answers were simple. You want easy to implement tactics and strategies that will let you create an outstanding experience around your senior living food and hospitality programming. So let's dive in right now on today's Trestle Tactics. Welcome back into Trestle Tactics. On today's episode, we're wrapping up our Lean Thinking series with Gordon Food Service by welcoming in Kymberly, Wrobles and Kayla Saunders. They're going to talk about something that's super important and is at the heart of every successful operation, employee engagement. They're going to talk about having the right processes, being only half the battle, and how a fully engaged team can truly unlock your food service team's potential. So without further ado, take it away, ladies.
Welcome to another episode of Trestle Tactics, where we will explore the strategies that drive success in the food service industry. My name is Kymberly Wrobles.
And I'm Kayla Saunders. And today's topic is one that is absolutely crucial for anyone who's managing a team. So the concept that people or our team are the key to success. So we're going to explore the idea of how the right processes will really only have an impact if your team is truly fully engaged.
So true. You can have the most efficient processes in place, but if your team is not on board, those processes are not going to deliver the results that you're looking for. So that employee engagement, that is the key to unlocking that potential. Kayla, from your experience as an operator, what does employee engagement actually look like? How does that work?
That's a really great question, Kim, because when you think of employee engagement, it can look different to the eye, really depending on the operation. There's really kind of no one way that it should look. But no matter what, at the root of it all, it can be achieved by focusing on your team members' needs. And this is something that you have to be really intentional about. So in my experience, when implementing any sort of change to help streamline your operations, it will often require, assigning different tasks to your team. And in my early years in working as a nutrition manager, I would include my team with these changes by keeping them informed during regular team meetings. But what I've since learned is that really reaching that employee engagement isn't just about informing your team and assigning tasks. It's really more about finding those ways to empower your team for them to share their ideas, really involving them in the process. And when you take the time to help them understand that they really are part of that larger, more efficient food service program and that their input is really valued.
So really, what I'm hearing you say is that team member really has to feel valued and included. And in doing so, the level of engagement is more likely to be increased.
Yeah, that's totally right.
Okay. I think also engagement isn't just about an employee being present. It's really about that employee being committed to the organization, their individual job, being motivated, and being proactive in their role. I think all of those things really demonstrate engagement.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you really need to be purposeful in your approach with this, because what you really want to create is you want to create that environment where employees can feel comfortable sharing their thoughts so they can bring forward ideas, because these types of conversations that you have are really that opportunity for them to understand how their work contributes to the overall success of your operation and that their input really does matter.
Sure. Totally.
So, Kim, from your experience, how would you tackle this concept? I guess the burning question is, how do you actually create engagement?
Well, I think you mentioned a key word there, and that's conversation. I see engagement as a two-way street. Like in many successful situations, it's communication as part of it. And I think it's important to start by demonstrating, a manager's engagement with their employees and their team. And that management needs to start on their side. It's important that team members see you actively participating in the organization, in them, and their development. So as a manager, you can start to achieve that by setting those clear expectations, but also building confidence with your team members. These are some key strategies that I think, in my opinion, can help with this process. But Kayla, can you, based on your experience, do you think you can dive deeper into those a little bit more?
Yeah. So strategy number one is really about setting clear expectations, as you mentioned. And a really good start with this is to take the time first to ensure that the job descriptions and any task lists that you have within your operations are clear and that they're detailed. So this concept might kind of come off as pretty basic, but it's really essential. So as I like to often say, as Brene Brown says, clear is kind. It's important to include time bound or measurable statements whenever possible. So for example, instead of maybe stating ensure tables are set for service, right? You could Instead, you could say, have table service ready for 4:30 p.m., right? There's your time bound. And then measurable, you could also include, ensure you wrap 100 sets of silverware in napkins. So measurable and specific. And
Sure.
this kind of clarity, right, is really going to help your team understand exactly what is expected of them.
There's nothing quite like taste to take you home. When flavors bring you back to county fairs, and sweetness incites stories of fresh fruits and farmers markets. Whether it's the bold notes of a big city or the rich profile of a coastal getaway, Gordon Choice regional favorites taste like home.
Sure, absolutely. I think a second strategy is to prioritize training. And this actually kind of can go back to building that confidence that I mentioned. And so obviously, training should cover the basics of the job. On food service, this could be as simple as food safety, knife skills, or even service excellence or hospitality training to really help build and improve that dining experience. So yes, we want to prioritize training on those core competencies, absolutely. But I think above and beyond that, also offering training opportunities that might lead to growth, that next step, and we call it upskilling. So matching training that is matched with an individual's interest also demonstrates that, hey, you care about them, you care about their interests and goals, but also that you believe in them. You believe they are capable of greater things. That helps instill or build more confidence. And it also really outlines and illustrates a path forward, which can be exciting and that can improve that individual's well-being and career advancement. So when an employee sees that you're investing in them and you're developing in them as a person and as an employee, you're creating those opportunities. And that employee is more likely to stay engaged, stay on board with you, stay motivated, and continue to work forward. Skilling is such an understated strategy that is really worth exploring. And I think a final component is thinking about the training format. What's best for that individual? Is it something on the job? Is it something more like a formal scholarship program? That is likely to depend on the person and also possibly the type of role that they're currently in or that they are working toward. So really getting to the root and uncovering that individual's interest, identifying opportunities for upskilling, all of these things will of course mean that you have started that conversation. You're showing your engagement, showing your devotion to that employee. So really when you have that intentional conversation, document it, all of these things will help you as part of this process of employee engagement.
Those are really great points on prioritizing training, Kim. I personally know that when you think of this concept of upskilling, this is a major culture shift for some organizations, right? The thought of implementing an individualized approach to training compared to perhaps what is the norm, which is like team or group training, the thought of that can be overwhelming because that can seem like a lot of work. So with this, I'd encourage our listeners to lean into the existing resources and tools that are already available through your food distribution partner. So be sure to reach out, learn what might be readily available for you to utilize. So this now brings us to the third of our 3 strategies. And the third is to engage the team in quality assurance. This strategy focuses on getting the whole team involved in quality assurance activities. So this could be something as simple as conducting a pre-service team huddle, or perhaps leaning into the concept of having your team use a checklist to confirm that daily tasks are 1, completed, right? But 2, also completed on time. And when everyone is involved in this process, it really helps maintain those quality standards, but it also helps foster that sense of shared responsibility, right? It's really essential to lean into that team effort mindset. So I know this is a lot of information, right? So hopefully having, this broken down into 3 strategies can help ease implementation within your organization. So Kim, with all this information shared today, what would you say is a main takeaway for our listeners? Like, what can they hopefully achieve with this information?
Yeah, great wrap up and great question, Kayla. I think simply saying that the fact is engaged employees are more happier, they will be more productive, and they tend to stick around. In the food service industry, when we tend to have pretty rapid turnover, and that continually one of our biggest challenges, having those employees that are engaged and sticking around, that's incredibly valuable. I can save you money in the long run because we know how difficult and how expensive turnover can be.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. When your team's engaged and they're more likely to take pride in their work, which is really special. And they'll often go the extra miles for your customers. And then they're more likely to collaborate effectively with their colleagues within their teams. And this doesn't really just lead to a better working environment. It can also translate into a stronger, more efficient, and more profitable food service experience overall.
Yeah, well said. If you want to be that successful organization, you've got to start with your own people. Start by setting those clear expectations, prioritizing their training, and really involving them in quality assurance. By doing so, you're illustrating that you're not just managing a group of people or a group of employees, you're building that cohesive, committed team that drives the success of your organization.
So thank you for joining us on today's episode of Trestle Tactics. We hope you have found these strategies helpful in your journey to building a successful senior living and healthcare food service operation.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your network or even with your food service team.
And as always, we encourage you to keep focusing on your people because they are your key to success.
Thanks so much, Kymberly and Kayla, for those great insights on employee engagement. We appreciate all the support from Gordon Food Service on this Lean Thinking series. It's been so much fun to collaborate with all of the team over there. Big shout out to Dana Fillmore for letting me use her team to share all these great insights. We'll see you next time. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Trestle Tactics. Be sure to like and subscribe on any of our channels, YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you listen to us. Also, be sure to follow us on any of your social media channels at Tips from Trestle. Well, thanks for joining us on this episode of Trestle Tactics.